This is pro off-road racer Casey Curry climbing upward almost at 90 degrees in a Jeep Gladiator Rubicon. While this vehicle is modified with 42-inch tires and a more flexible suspension, it's in Jeep DNA to be a lightweight climbing machine right off the assembly line. So what about Jeeps make them ideal for scaling vertical rock walls and climbing massive boulders? Straight from the factory, Jeeps already have multiple features that make them ideal for an extreme form of off-roading known as rock crawling. For example, thanks to its short wheelbase, super flat front end, 33-inch tires, and 10.8 inches of ground clearance, the Wrangler Rubicon has an approach angle of 44 degrees. Approach angle is the maximum angle of a slope your vehicle can climb without your front bumper hitting. On the most difficult off-road trails, this can mean the difference between scaling a vertical chute and demolishing your front end. The Wrangler also has front and rear solid axles, meaning a single beam connects each pair of wheels. Other off-road SUVs, like Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, typically have an independent front suspension, meaning the wheels move independent of one another. This makes for a smoother ride, better handling, and better fuel economy. But solid axles are sturdier and have better wheel articulation. That means both wheels stay planted. On an uneven, rocky hill, if one wheel is forced to go up, the other wheel on that axle automatically goes down. Add in Jeep's ability to electronically disconnect the part that keeps your car from swaying side to side, and you've got unlimited flexibility when climbing the toughest obstacles. It's these factors that provide the traction needed to keep from tumbling backward down a hill. While approach angle and traction are important, they won't make a difference if power isn't going to your wheels correctly. That's where the Rubicon's front and rear locking differentials come in. A differential is a tool on your axles that allow your wheels to spin at different speeds, something necessary when turning, since the outer wheels have to travel farther. In a traditional open differential, more power is sent to the wheel with less traction, to balance the torque of both wheels. This is great on smooth, even roads, but can leave you stuck when one wheel gets suspended in mid-air on rocky terrain. With a locking differential, the entire axle and both wheels keep spinning at the same speed. You can't drive as fast, but you don't need all four wheels planted to keep moving forward. Getting the perfect amount of torque to your wheels for crawling rock walls gets a little more complicated. It requires the ideal crawl ratio. Crawl ratio is actually an equation. The gear ratio of your vehicle's transmission times the gear ratio at its transfer case times the gear ratio at its differentials or axles. This reveals the amount of torque at each wheel compared to the engine. Let's break this down. Torque moves from the engine to your wheels using gears spinning against one another. Gear ratio is the size difference between them. A gear might spin against another gear 4 times its size. That means the smaller gear spins 4 times to get the larger gear to spin once. However, it's much easier on the engine to spin that tiny gear 4 times. As this reduction in gear ratio happens, the engine rotates with minimal effort, maybe 100 times, to turn each wheel just once. That would make for a crawl ratio of 100 to 1, the same as Jeep's record-setting option for the new Wrangler Rubicon. It's similar to pedaling a 10-speed bicycle uphill. You select your lower gears while going uphill. It requires you to pedal more to rotate the wheels, but allows you to conserve energy. However, just like a bike's lowest gears, a high crawl ratio means lowering your top speed. You trade power for more torque in order to take obstacles at a slow, controlled speed. Serious rock crawlers typically modify their gearing to get a higher ratio. But that's just where the modifications start. Modding has become a major part of Jeep culture, and it ultimately gives you a Jeep capable of climbing an enormous rock wall. Wranglers alone are one of the most modified vehicles on the market. with about 98% having been customized in some way. When it comes to rock crawling, first and foremost, crawlers need big tires with less air, necessary to give you as much contact with the trail as possible. Once tires are selected, Jeep owners need a lift kit that both fits the additional rubber and gives your vehicle the added clearance and flexibility needed off-road. From there, serious crawlers will modify their steering system and brakes and add metal skid plates and sliders to guard the vehicle's undercarriage and doors from bumpy trails. But even with Jeep's most advanced capabilities and the most expensive aftermarket rig you can build, it all comes down to the driver. Rock crawling is a sport reserved for thrill seekers experienced at pushing their vehicles to the absolute limit. Most expert crawlers will tell you that the best modification you can make is more time in the driver's seat, but a capable vehicle definitely helps.